I'd love to see your jealous face, but I'm not that cruel, so I'll let it go. It'd probably be awkward for you to see me anyway, so why don't you hide in the bathroom or something? She laughed loudly over the phone, mocking me. I hate this woman more than anyone in the world. Actually, more than anyone in the entire universe. 13 years ago, she stole my husband from me. I'd love to cut ties with her, but that's impossible because, unfortunately, this woman is my biological sister. After she hung up, I held the phone to my ear for a moment and chuckled quietly. My name is Ruth, a 37-year-old divorcee. My marriage fell apart in just 6 months, all thanks to my wicked sister. I have an identical twin sister named Rachel. Even our closest friends can't tell us apart because we look so much alike, but while we may look the same, our personalities are completely different. I'm quiet, while Rachel is outgoing and always takes charge. I was better at schoolwork, and Rachel excelled in sports. She's the kind of person who says whatever she's thinking without a filter. She'd say things like, "Why are you wearing such ugly clothes? People will think I'm not stylish since we're twins. That would be terrible." As you can see, we don't get along. It wouldn't be so bad if it was just at home, but Rachel always caused problems. Back in school, girls from other schools would harass me on my way home, saying, "Hey, stop flirting with my boyfriend." Of course, I didn't even know those girls. Not again, Rachel. Whenever Rachel found a guy she liked, she'd have no problem taking him, even if he already had a girlfriend. Sure, the guys were to blame too, but Rachel was worse. And since people confused me for her, I became a victim as well. What's even crazier is that she'd lose interest quickly, sometimes after just a week. I tried to talk to her about it. "Rachel, you need to stop. Have you ever thought about how those other girls feel? And don't forget, I'm suffering too because of you." Her response: "Jealous women are scary. But don't worry, your guy John is so boring. I doubt he'll ever cheat on you. He's not attractive at all, so I'm not interested in him." She always talked down about my boyfriend. That guy John is my ex-husband, the one who dumped me without a second thought 13 years ago. We got close because we went to the same tutoring center. He was quiet and made me feel comfortable. His mom was a well-known fortune teller, famous for her accurate predictions. She even ran her own fortune-telling shop. John and I graduated from the same university, and 2 years later, we decided to get married. I thought I'd spend the rest of my life with him. But just 6 months after our wedding, John handed me divorce papers and said, "Please, divorce me. I can't do this anymore, and I'm sure you know why." Sitting beside him was Rachel, with a smug look on her face. I was shocked. I stammered, "Huh? I'm sorry, I don't understand. Did I do something wrong? I don't remember doing anything." John slammed his fist on the desk and yelled, "Really? How can you act so innocent? You've been cheating on me. Can you deny it after seeing this?" He pointed to a few pictures on the desk. They showed a man and a woman walking into a hotel together. But to me, it looked like I was staring at photos of my sister Rachel with some guy I didn't even know. I couldn't understand what John was talking about. The man in the pictures was probably just another one of Rachel's flings. No, this is Rachel. It's not me." Just then, Rachel started crying dramatically. "Stop this. I can't keep lying to John anymore." John turned to Rachel and said, "It's okay, Rachel. You're so kind, thank you." I was completely confused. Then John glared at me and started telling this ridiculous story. "You've been cheating on me for a while, haven't you? To cover it up, you kept borrowing Rachel's clothes and sneaking off to a hotel with your lover. You're a horrible woman." He truly believed this wild story Rachel had made up. "Rachel told me you've always been bad with men. Even when we were dating, you were seeing other guys behind my back." I looked at him in disbelief and replied, "Are you serious, John? You've known me for years and you believe my sister, who you've known for only 6 months? Are you even thinking straight?" But he just glared at me, furious. To make things worse, Rachel started flirting with John, saying, "Even though we look the same, our personalities are completely different. Ruth isn't charming at all. I'm always here, listening to you with a smile, being patient. Maybe you married the wrong sister." I couldn't believe my ears. Rachel kept pretending to cry, but I could see the smirk on her face. Rachel had always been a player with guys, even back in school, but now she was targeting a different type of man since she started working. Rachel had changed her priorities. Now she cared more about social status and money rather than looks. My ex-husband John, who worked at a big company and came from a fairly wealthy family, became her perfect target. She probably set her sights on him the moment I introduced him at our wedding. John had completely fallen for her fake tears. I couldn't believe the man I had spent so many years with was this gullible. My feelings for him started to fade fast. "You two are disgusting. Do whatever you want, but don't ever show your faces to me again." I could feel tears welling up, but I held them back. I filled out the divorce papers right then and there and threw them at the two of them. Knowing my sneaky sister, they probably hadn't even started a physical relationship yet, so suing for compensation seemed tough. Still, I didn't care about the money anymore. I just wanted them out of my life. When I went back to my parents' house, they were furious with my sister and decided to disown her. When they confronted her, Rachel just said, "Oh, really? I don't care. But when you run out of money, you'll come crawling back to me." All right, bye. She even shrugged off her own parents. A friend later told me that my ex-husband and Rachel got married just 3 months after the divorce. I was so shocked I couldn't even cry. I felt absolutely nothing. For 13 years, I hadn't seen my sister or John. But one day, I got a call from a public phone. I answered, thinking it was work-related, and immediately recognized the voice. "Hello, Ruth." I couldn't believe it. "Rachel, how dare you call me?" She chuckled. "Are you still holding a grudge? You're always so gloomy, Ruth. Anyway, I need a favor." Without any sign of regret, she continued, "I'm pregnant. Of course the father is John, the man you love so much." Rachel called me, sounding all cheerful, and said, "I'm pregnant. I want to tell our parents about their first grandchild, but they won't listen to me. You tell them for me." She had the nerve to boss me around like that, so I shot back, "Why are you so happy when they disowned you?" But she just laughed. "How many years has it been? 13, right? You're the only one still holding a grudge. I bet you're still living alone at our parents' house. Well, I'm going to give them a grandchild instead of you." Rachel was always good at getting under my skin. "I'd love to see how jealous you are, but I won't bother because it's too pathetic. If you see me, you should just hide in the bathroom or something," she said, laughing. I stayed quiet, and then she hung up, saying she'd visit over the weekend. After the call, I just stood there holding the phone, chuckling. That weekend, while I was relaxing, my phone rang. It was a blocked number, probably Rachel again. I answered, already annoyed. "Hey, unblock me," she snapped. I calmly replied, "Why? I blocked you because I don't want to talk to you." "Isn't that the point? I came all the way here and no one's home," she yelled. "Didn't I say I was coming today?" "Wait, you were serious?" I said. "I thought you were joking, and by the way, I don't live there anymore." Judging by Rachel's shaky voice, she was standing in front of the house we grew up in, but none of us lived there anymore. She was causing such a commotion, I didn't want her to disturb the neighbors, so I gave her my new address and hung up. An hour later, the doorbell rang. Rachel and John, my ex-husband, stood at the door. Rachel's first words were, "You've got some nerve. What is this place? Why are you living in such a nice apartment?" She was furious, her eyes bloodshot. I guess she didn't expect me to live in a decent place. My apartment was nice, not super fancy, but in a good area with high rent. Ignoring her tantrum, I calmly said, "The neighbors won't appreciate the noise. Why don't we come inside?" Once inside, Rachel seemed surprised at how spacious the place was. Seeing her frustration, I couldn't help but smirk. My mom, who I lived with, was sitting quietly, watching my sister. Rachel nervously greeted her. "Hi, Mom. Long time no see. I'm pregnant, and we were wondering if John and I could stay here for a while." At her ridiculous request, I couldn't hold back my laughter. "Wait, you want me to live with both of you?" "Absolutely not. Have you forgotten what you did to me?" Rachel snapped. "Ruth, shut up. This house is still under Dad's name, right? You're single, can't get remarried, and you're still leeching off our parents. How pathetic." Rachel then added, with a smug grin, "Great job taking care of our parents. From now on, John and I will live here and take care of them. So can you leave? Oh, by the way, where's Dad? Is he at work?" I had reached my breaking point, but before I could say anything, Mom spoke up quietly. "Dad's gone. He passed away." My parents had always been serious people, and ever since my divorce 13 years ago, Rachel's fault, they had apologized to me, even though it wasn't their doing. My father used to say, "Maybe it's my fault for not raising her better. I'm sorry, Ruth. I'm really sorry." He became more and more depressed, and it got to the point where he couldn't work anymore. Both my parents were in their early 50s then, and we were getting by on my income and Mom's part-time job. Not long after, Dad was diagnosed with cancer, and he passed away 10 years ago. Before he died, he told me, "Don't tell Rachel anything. I don't think I'll make it to heaven if she shows up at my funeral." So just like he asked, Mom and I didn't contact Rachel. We moved into this house about 5 years ago because Mom hurt her leg from overworking. We thought about renovating our old home, but it was at the top of a hill, which made it difficult for Mom to walk. Since we moved into this more accessible place, her leg has been feeling much better. As I tried to explain this calmly, thinking about Dad made me want to cry. I could see that Mom felt the same. Her eyes were filled with tears. But Rachel's reaction was as heartless as I expected. Too late now, isn't it? Besides, it's not my fault Dad got sick. And look at you, you're living in such a nice place because of Dad's inheritance, right? What about my share? Don't I have a right to inherit something? She didn't miss a beat with her nonsense. Mom immediately shot back, inheritance? There's nothing for you. You only ever came to us when you were in trouble for doing stupid things before you got married. How many times did we have to pay for your alimony because you messed around with married men? Live with you? Never. Don't be ridiculous. It was the first time both Rachel and I had seen Mom this furious. Sensing the tension, Rachel finally went silent. Then John, who had been quiet like a puppet this whole time, suddenly spoke up. Rachel, you've been deceiving me, haven't you? Ever since I married you, my life has been a mess. You spend recklessly, you don't do any housework. I even met some guys from your high school, and they told me I was blind to marry you. I almost burst out laughing at my ex-husband's words. He had put up with her for 13 years, what a surprise. When he came up to me, he said, Ruth, I've been regretting our divorce. Do you want to start over? Let's just forget the past. As he tried to gently touch me, I felt a chill run down my spine. No way. Let bygones be bygones. Who does he think he is? Is he out of his mind? I thought. Just as I was about to move away from him, the door to the next room suddenly burst open. Could you not touch her with your dirty hands, please? A man appeared, and both my ex-husband and I were startled. Ignoring Rachel, who mumbled, Who is he? I said, I told you to stay hidden because I didn't want to involve you. He replied, I couldn't stand it when he tried to touch you, Ruth. Besides, having a third person here might help with this discussion, don't you think? I sighed and introduced him. Okay. This is my husband, Alex, and Tony, come here. I called out to our son, Tony, who was peeking from behind the door. He was 8 years old and probably heard some of the argument. He was glaring at Rachel and her husband. You're remarried? Unbelievable. Why? Rachel was more shocked than anyone else to see that I had a husband and a son. My ex-husband, John, was just as stunned, his mouth hanging open like a fish. I replied, What do you mean, why? How many years do you think it's been? It's been 13 years. After all that time, you two haven't changed at all, which is surprising. Well, you do look a lot older though. I added a bit sarcastically. Their faces turned bright red. I explained, I met Alex shortly after my dad passed away. We worked together for a while and one day he asked me out. When I told him I was divorced, he said, Does being divorced mean you can't remarry, and asked me out again. We got married a year later and our son Tony was born the following year. Alex treats my mom very well and doesn't mind us all living together. His parents, who live with Alex's brother and his wife, even reassured me, saying they're glad I'm here for Alex. It was Alex who suggested we move to our current house because he was worried about my mom's ability to get around, I added. I turned to my sister and ex-husband, who were still in shock. My mom and I are living our lives here. Can you not disrupt us? And Rachel, you said you were pregnant. How far along are you? Their flustered responses made me think Rachel was lying about being pregnant. I had only been married to John for 6 months, and I never got pregnant, which my ex-mother-in-law used to criticize me for. If Rachel wasn't pregnant, then that was likely the case. Rachel always got along with my mean-spirited former mother-in-law. Unable to stand the cold stares from my family, the two of them quickly left the house. Alex, smiling, said, I've heard stories, but is she really your sister? She does look like you, but her personality? Anyway, it's settled for now. I gave him a small, bitter smile in return. That evening, the doorbell kept ringing. I looked at the monitor and sighed, knowing who it was. When I opened the door, there stood Rachel and John with pale faces. They begged, We need help. Can you lend us some money? They were kneeling down and pleading. My husband was confused, but my mother and I had different feelings. Earlier in the day, while waiting for Rachel to call, my mom received a call from a friend of my late father. This friend now rents our old home. When I returned to the house, I saw that the flower beds were destroyed and the windows were cracked. Security footage showed a man and a woman, with the angry woman stomping on the flowers and throwing stones at the windows. It was Rachel, clearly furious. On a call with me, Mom gave the contact information of Rachel to Dad's friend. He was upset to find out that Rachel was the same daughter who had troubled our father for years. In the damaged garden were rare flowers that were hard to grow, and they asked for compensation. Rachel and John seemed to be in financial trouble and were struggling with housing. I was surprised they showed up that same day, but their boldness impressed me. I told them, I can give you some money, but there's one condition. I made them sign a written pledge that they would never approach me again in exchange for helping them with this issue. I couldn't help but laugh as I watched them leave with their shoulders slumped. Rachel is still my sister by blood, and it's hard to completely cut ties. There might come a time when she tries to use her influence to contact me. If that happens, I'm ready to defend myself using audio recordings. 13 years ago, I secretly collected evidence against my sister and her husband because I had no intention of ever forgiving them. Later, I learned from a friend that my ex-husband had left his big corporation right after our divorce. He started working at a fortune-telling business run by my former mother-in-law, and he was paid a high salary because they were family. My sister and ex seemed to be living luxuriously. However, a few months ago, my former mother-in-law passed away. My ex, who wasn't good at fortune-telling, took over the business, but it quickly failed. Desperate, they tried to scam people by claiming a bracelet was made by my late mother. When this scam was exposed, victims formed a group and began protesting at the business. My sister and ex were left without a job or home and came asking for my help. I was furious at their nerve. But with the police now involved, it's only a matter of time before they face justice. We decided to move again because of a job transfer for my husband, Alex. Mom asked if she could really come with us, to which Alex responded with a chuckle, saying she's an important part of our family and he'd carry her if necessary. Hearing this, Mom cried with gratitude. Tony, our son, handed her a Kleenex, concerned but smiling. Watching my family, I felt deeply thankful for the happiness we had.